Yes.
I'm in Dr. Sable's meat class, and he was telling us about right before slaughter how cattle shouldn't feel like fear or pain.
That's right.
So what are your
Who did I
views?
get that from?
Well, there's been
And please tell her it's properly cited.
well, there's research that shows that last 5 minutes you can really wreck the meat. Last 5 minutes, Lily Edwards and Hambrecht over in Europe showed that, electric prods and stuff like that and jamming get the lactate up. And Robin Warner in Australia found that like prodding cattle like 5 or 6 times with an electric prod 5 minutes before slaughter, you got tougher meat.
So then my question was like, what are your views on like castration and dehorning? Because
castration and dehorning definitely hurt.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. And it's something that a lot of the animal activists are concerned about. I'm actually more concerned about lameness because in a dairy cow, that's chronic pain. You're talking about being in pain for maybe months because lame cows, their feet hurt. And there's research that shows that. And do animals really feel pain? One of the things that shows that they really feel pain is what's called a self-medication experiment. And that's been done with rats, and it's been done with chickens. They went and injected some very nasty stuff into the joint, get it really inflamed, arthritic, and really awful. And then the animals given, the rat had 2 water bottles. One that had bitter-tasting fentanyl. It's a fast-acting painkiller. It tastes absolutely awful. And the other one had plain water. And when the leg was all inflamed, it drank the nasty, bitter water. And as it healed, it switched over to the plain water. So it wasn't getting addicted to the fentanyl. And then a similar thing was done with the chicken, except it was the feed. And one had the fentanyl and the other didn't. And an animal will self-medicate, eat something that tastes really nasty in order to relieve the pain. So it definitely bothers them enough to eat something that's really bitter. No, they feel pain.
Okay, thank you. Yes?
I was wondering, what is the trade-off, if there is any trade-off, between the profitability and the efficiency of these feed yards and slaughterhouses and the new practices that people are starting to do in this humane animal handling practices? Is there any trade-off?
Well, on the slaughterhouses are the easy part. A win-win situation. With cattle, there's huge safety advantages for people when you calm things way down. Now, let's get into some of the things like feeding all these beta agonists and stuff. Like you get cattle really loaded up on zolpadrol, the animal turns back and he looks like a bull. Ractopamine doesn't seem to do that, but zolpadrol will make him look like a bull. And then you get the tough meat problems along with that. And when I look at that, I'm going, why are we taking the testicles off? And then putting all this stuff, feeding them all this stuff and sticking all these hormones in their ears, turn them back into bulls again. Why don't we leave them as bulls? The only problem with that is they won't grade. Well, we should change the grading system. Because the natural package that comes with the bull is free, and it makes a lot of growth promotion. There's some stuff that we do that just make very much sense to me. You see these cattle, and the thing is, I think there's a lot of people in the feed yard industry that don't know what bulls look like. Because I've had people say, oh, well, cattle fed zolpadrol will look funny. I said, they don't look funny. They look like bulls. In fact, if I would have thought they were bulls. Well, I didn't look underneath to see that certain parts were missing. I think we have to start looking at what are optimal things to do. We can push the dairy cow and push the dairy cow, and then it's a point where she's not breeding.
My question is a little bit more along the lines of your autism. One of my really good friends back home has a student that is autistic. She's a teacher. And she wanted me to ask tonight, since she couldn't be here, what is the hardest thing for you back when you were in school to be able to correlate between a teacher as far as a learning environment, if you could pick one thing?
Well, that's a very vague question. And one of the things is develop the kids' strengths. Kids with autism and dyslexia and other things tend to have uneven skills. Good at one thing, bad at something else. Let's build up on the strength. In mine when I was a little kid, it was art. And I was always encouraged to do pictures of different things. And when I originally started learning how to do different design stuff, I went to every feed yard in Arizona and I worked cattle. And I took all the good ideas and put them together, chucked out the bad things that definitely didn't work. Autistic kids don't pick up social cues. So they got to learn social stuff like being in a play. And being a child of the 50s, all kids were taught social. Boy, they taught kids to say please and thank you. They taught kids to not say rude words. You were taught how to eat properly. You see, in today's society, it's more loose and not being taught those things. And when the child makes a social mistake, you need to pull them aside and say, well, when you stuck your tongue out, that's like really rude. Or that other kid thought you were ignoring him. They don't pick up social nuances. There's a scene in the movie where my boss slams down the deodorant and says, you stink, use it. That actually happened. And I showed Mick Jackson, the director, exactly how to jam the deodorant down, slammed it down. They did the slam down just like my boss did back in the early 70s did. And at the time, I was pretty angry about that, but now I thank that boss for doing that. I think in some of my books, The Way I See It. I also have a book on, how old a kid is she working with?
I think she's 14.
14? Well, you might want to get The Way I See It in my Unwritten Social Rules book. I think that'll give a lot of insight.
Thank you.